And Julius seems to be so much against this idea of the government favoring one race over another, despite it being an originally African country. I think the government of South Africa should just give equal rights to both the black people and the white people.
We want to show the state that your inability to intervene decisively when it is white people, it is exactly what led us to where we are now.
So, let me ask you the question then.
Yeah.
If the police are afraid, these are people who are empowered by law to carry firearms, and if their lives are threatened, well, the police minister right now, we remember him back at the time that he was the commissioner. He said, you've got to fight fire with fire if your life is threatened.
Yes.
They, the people, by law, who are given that permission to have firearms. How are you going to deal with people who are armed as a political party?
No, we are going to defend the court and the police station and the police with our own bodies. With our own bodies will be there. If there's going to be any killing by anyone who wants to kill us for defending the courts and the police, let it happen.
You're not going to retaliate?
We'll not retaliate. You think we're going to give them roses? Anyone we shoot back.
So are you going there armed?
No, we're going there peacefully.
Yeah, but how are you going to defend yourself should someone come to any of your members carrying a firearm?
But do you want me to reveal my defense strategy here so that the enemy agent can even prepare for that a defense strategy? It can't be. All I'm saying to you is that we're peacefully going there. We have not called for anyone to shoot at anyone. We're going to defend our buildings. We're going to defend our police, who have proven beyond any reasonable doubt that they can't defend themselves even when they are protected by the law to shoot back. They couldn't. Only go and look at a video where they are entering the passage, and then there is a shot fired. They don't know it's fired from where. One of them says, if they shoot, you shoot back. He gives that instruction.
The police minister had a meeting with you. He told us just a few days
Absolutely.
ago. What was the content of that meeting?
Well, we spoke about Senegal, and that we are going there. He wanted to know what are the issues. I told him that you are scared of white people. There's too much white arrogance here. You have allowed it because your president was bored by white people. And not only now, from when he was young. He was adopted by a London family, which handed him over to the Minel family. Where do you think Cyril gets accent from? Because he has never gone to a white school. He went to black schools in Shawela, later on in Venda, then he went to Teflo. He's got an accent because he grew up in a white family. So they bought him from when he was young. The white arrogance is not only in the farms. All the BEE deals that were signed 10 years ago, all white people are reversing them because they tell BEE people we don't need them. Why? They've got a big BEE partner in the presidency that protects them. How dare does your president go and launch a project in Moitluf, which is not BEE compliant? Why should these people comply with BEE? So I was saying to the minister, your president, who is adopted by a white family, has allowed these people to develop this arrogance. And we're not going to allow him or you, through your actions, to make white people to be arrogant and want to subject black people to humiliation. Be careful what you ask for. South Africans should be concerned about the Constitution. South Africans should be concerned about the rights of our people. South Africans should be concerned about the dignity of each individual, even if accused of obscene crimes. We should be concerned, because you know what's going to happen? The beating is coming. Ask for it. Agree it's not you today. It's not your relative today that gets humiliated like that when they get arrested. What is going to come next is the beating. They're going to start beating them up, because at newsroom we said we shouldn't be concerned about how they get arrested. They are going to be beaten. After the beating, the killing is going to be followed. It starts very small. You must see it as it comes. They will tell you in South Africa. I say them before they happen, because how they start, I can be in a position to project that this is where it is going. People are going to be beaten. People are going to be killed. Because at the beginning, we said, why should we care? Care about the constitution, care about the rights, care about the dignity. These people are going to go to jail anyway. It doesn't matter how they get arrested, but defend their dignity. Because once you humiliate police, you are humiliating a black state, and indirectly you are humiliating black people. And that pain we suffered during apartheid is resurrected, and we go through it again.
I don't think I can continue listening to this, but the message here is the racism in South Africa is taking a great toll, and I don't think very soon racism is ending in South Africa. Julius Malema is trying to minimize this effect of racism. He may not be the perfect person to the eyes of many South Africans or some South Africans, but he really is trying to minimize the voice of to bring out the voice of the oppressed people, the black people, who are generally the oppressed people, or mostly the oppressed people in South Africa. Because as I can hear, everything here is the government of South Africa tends to favor the white people over the black people.
You think we can listen to people like him? You think we can listen to Mbeki, to Zuma, to Mandela? We'll never allow that. This nonsense must come to an end at some point. These whites should know that we are not stepchildren in this country. This is our country. We too belong here. And if going to Senegal will cause a civil war, if a man exercises his constitutional rights, that will lead to a civil war, so be it. I'm not talking here from the comfort of my couch in the newsroom Africa offices. I will be in Senegal myself. I will be leading from the front. Do what you want to do. What soldiers? Why should we be scared of retired soldiers when we're not scared of them when they were soldiers? When they legitimately carried guns to kill black people, we confronted them with stones.
Mr. Malema.
Let history repeat itself. Let us confront the same people our parents confronted.
Yeah.
If that is going to be the case, let it be.
Mr.
We're
Malema.
not going to live in fear here because we think white farmers are former generals. They can go to hell. Murderers, generals.
Mr. Malema, your utterances right now, you sound like a person who is spoiling for war, not the protection of democracy that you claim to go and do there. Is that what you essentially want?
But what is war? When a person says, I'm going to Senegal to defend a building with my body, I've never told you of AK-47. I've never told you of
you are also saying...
You are talking war.
But you are saying...
When I defend myself against white, racist and terrorists, if you are scared of them, it's none of my business, Chief.
But you are saying...
alone.
But you are saying...
of being scared of white people. I'm standing up to them. Yeah. I'm standing up to whiteness. I'm standing to white arrogance. I will never allow it to play itself out in South Africa when I'm a leader of a third political party. The EFF's presence in this democracy is to put racists at their own place. And we're going to do that knowing very well that we're going to be called names because of racist apologists, apartheid apologists, and beneficiaries of racism. So we are not part of that nonsense.
I want to revisit what you said earlier.
Yeah. And show me the war where I'm talking about the war. By saying I'm not
that's exactly the element.
War.
That's exactly the element I want to deal with. You're saying you're not going there to fight, but you're going to defend this democracy with your bodies. And then I asked you, so if someone confronts you with a gun, what are you going to do? And then you said,
I'll drop you.
And then you said,
with a gun, I'll drop you.
Not going to reveal your defense strategy. What is that defense strategy?
Is self-defense allowed by the constitution of this country. Is that what
so it's easy to conclude. It's easy to conclude that you're going to Senegal armed.
No, when a black man is going to engage in self-defense, you don't know, what if I've got a black belt? Mawashi Geri. How do you know? Self-defense is not a gun. I'm going to defend myself. And you will see there that I can defend myself and it is allowed by the Constitution. I'm not Khalema. I'm not going to speak like these ANC cowards who are actually beneficiaries of this racism and white arrogance, and who have allowed it. They should have dealt with this thing long time ago. They have not dealt with it. Till today, Tony, the people who stormed the court, the people who banned the vehicles, their faces are all over. Only a person who suffers from bipolar is arrested there.
Can I ask you about what came out of a meeting between Police Minister Bheki Cele and the State Security Minister Ayanda Dlodlo?
I never had a meeting with them.
No. I'm saying that they had a meeting with the farmers.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. They were given a list of complaints by the community there. And high on that list is the issue of the theft of their livestock. Included in there are allegations that they are making that there are also police officers whose names were given to the police minister. Shouldn't that be the target of our collective anger? A corrupt police service that is working with thieves who are stealing livestock, who are stealing essentially our food security in this country. The farmers were quoted this week as saying per month, because of livestock theft, they are losing in excess of 1.2 million rand. That is a threat to food security, is it not?
No. Once they apologize for those reckless actions they took that day in Senegal, there will not be anything that brings us together. There's nothing that we can collectively and jointly ask for with those white racists. That's what happened after 1994. They've never offered an apology. All you did was exactly what you are doing, following nicely well in the footsteps of your grandfathers in the ANC. Let's go beyond and build a country with reconciliation. Reconcile with people who never said sorry. Reconcile with people who never apologized for their reckless actions and killing of black people. If we allow that nonsense to happen there, it will go all over. You know what these whites do every day? They wake up and block N1. When the taxi people tried to do it, the soldiers shot them because the taxi people were black. They wake up and block N14. Nothing happens to them. No permit, no nothing. This Malema once said to me when we were marching to Pretoria, he called me to his office and said to me, Julius, you cannot march on the M1 because the M1 is the road that connects everything. So once you block N1, you've got a potential of blocking an ambulance in Varambad, which has got nothing to do with your march here. Why has Malema not offered the same advice to the white racists who are blocking N1 every time they wake up in the morning? Last from Paris, Clip Drift and Coke.
Kebima Patso did the same just last week. He blocked a highway.
He doesn't have numbers that don't. How can he block a highway with the Karachi? Kebima Patso has got no people, has got no numbers. There are very few MK people. Those drunkards that are following Kebima Patso everywhere have got nothing to do or the same capacity as these farmers who are always blocking N1 here in Gauteng. I've never seen any police action against them.
Mr. Malema, I want us to talk about corruption in the police.
Exactly. I agree with you.
I'm making a case to you.
Any policeman
yes,
who's involved in the stealing of stock theft or any other form of crime must be arrested. I mean, we must be very proud that a general has been arrested in the police now. That should send a strong message to the corrupt police. But Oli, because earlier on you said we must not divert, a similar case is in Newcastle, where white farmers steal black people's cattle. Because when the cattle go grazing in their farms, they arrest those cattle and they never release them. When they report them to Newcastle police station, black police officers say, we cannot arrest a white man, you know that. When they run over kids, as they do their racist things in that town, and the black people go and open a case, the police say we cannot go and arrest a white man, you know that. I'm not making this up. Bheki Cele was told. The same way you are saying Bheki Cele was told about white people losing cattle.
Yeah.
in Senegal. He was told of black people losing cattle in Newcastle, where he was told he's scared of white people. Till to date, there's no action against white farmers identified in Newcastle who stole the cattle of black people. I must come here and speak nicely in defense of white people who say they lose cattle, when we're losing cattle every day, and we don't lose cattle only, we also lose life, and they never get arrested.
So it's clear then that we have an issue of police officers who are either incapacitated, are not trained, or are simply not willing to do what they are employed to do, and that is in part to protect civilians in this country. Wouldn't you agree?
How can this protect civilians when they can't protect themselves? There's no capacity at all. The government is in the hands of incapable people who are obsessed with self and have got nothing to do with the people of South Africa. I mean, they can fight amongst themselves and say all types of things against each other. None of them has said anything against that thing there. None of them have, in an angry manner, treated the way they are doing when they are threatened by their colleagues that they must be removed from ministerial positions. They never treat the same way against white people, but they treat against each other like that. They never treat against terrorists that are there in Senegal. None of them will treat or even be in Senegal against the display of racism. But talk about removing them from ministerial positions, you won't sleep that day. Because they are obsessed with self.
Very briefly, I want you to tell me what you think should be the rural safety strategy that will be effective for government to protect the farming communities in South Africa. I'm not talking about protecting white farmers or black farmers. The strategy that will protect everyone in the farming community.
There's no need for that at all. There isn't. The people who must be protected in South Africa, who the war has been declared against, is women and children. Is the rape victims, not the farm people. My man, let's go and check. 1 year, 21,000, more than 21,000 murder cases were reported. You know how many were in the farms? Not the farmers, in the farms. 97. Not even more than 100. And you want to say to me, this is a national phenomenon? It is not. It is an isolated incident. One is too many, I agree. Let's deal with murder decisively. If you want to talk special attention, if you want to talk special teams brought together, special courts, special prosecutors, special police, focusing on special issue, that issue should be rape, that issue should be murder of women and children and the elderly gogos. Those are the people who are the victims of the current crimes in South Africa, not farmers. I'm saying to you 97. So if we're to go to the farmers, it's actually going to be way less than that. You want us to create a special unit for them because they are white? It will never happen. Maybe the ANC government will do it. When the EFF comes in, it's going to destroy that type of a unit and refocus that channel where it is needed the most. There is scientifically, there is no any form of evidence that farmers are being finished in South Africa. It's not true.
And I think the president agrees with you in that instance, and he wrote as such in his weekly letter. But I will talk to you.
I don't want to agree with that guy.
I will talk to you after this short breather about special courts and special units that perhaps ought to be created for fighting corruption in this country, which is another massive issue.
Absolutely.
Right. That's conversation in a moment. You're watching Newsfeed, the AM edition. Mr. Malema, I want us to take a different path now and talk about corruption. This morning, we waking up, and at least one of us is not waking up in his comfortable bed. That's Angelo Akriti, waking up in police cells. Police, or should I say law enforcement, working meticulously, discovering that he's been taking money offshore along with massive assets. What's your comment as far as that issue is concerned as a party that is vocal against corruption in this country?
Well, they should have known that when they gave him the first bail. They gave him bail knowing very well that it's not now. They're taking the money out of the country. It's not now. Him and Watson have been taking the money offshore. That information should have been known before he was granted the first bail. You know why they are denying him bail? It's because they've been engaged in some Hollywood arrangement arresting black people. And then they go around looking at the law fruit from amongst white communities to create an impression that we are also arresting white people. But that thing should have been in jail long time ago. That guy should not have received bail. And that is the type you should not even engage in any other dealings with as the state to say, no, if you give us so and so, will not prosecute you or anything of that sort. We must arrest him and we must send him to jail. I don't care about Agrizi. Agrizi is a small fish. I want real people. Why is Mantashe not arrested? After accepting that they installed cameras at his house and did a fence. Why is Thabo Makwetla not arrested? After they did everything else, and then he only tells us now that he's awaiting invoice. When you owe people and you know that you have to pay them, you can't await invoice for more than 5 years or 3 years, or the case may be. Why is Nomvula not arrested? And then you tell us, hey, there is a big anti-corruption all types. Why is Cyril not arrested? Why is Cyril's son, if there is nothing implicating Cyril, why is Cyril's son not arrested? Because Agrizi and the books show that they benefited from Bosasa. South Africa, don't be fooled. These people are playing games with us. Cyril wants to create an impression that he's a corruption buster himself. Why is he not releasing the CR17 documents if he's fighting corruption? Let me tell you, Toli, we can never fight corruption without knowing who are the funders of the president, so that we can check if these are not beneficiaries of PPEs. If this man who's given a public launch by the president without being BEE compliant, we need to know if this is not the man who donated the money to CR17. That's why they can even launch his project even when it's not BEE compliant. The president of South Africa is leading in corruption. For as long as he's not releasing CR17 funders and he keeps on objecting them in parliament, a man who won to be a president under the ticket of transparency and corruption-free South Africa, he's now defending.
All right.
And Julius seems to be so much against this idea of the government favoring one race over another, despite it being an originally African country. I think the government of South Africa should just give equal rights to both the black people and the white people. If causing a jam in a highway will lead to someone's death in an ambulance, if this jam is caused by a black person, they should face a consequence. If it's done by a white person, they should face the same consequences. Julius Malema ain't perfect. He ain't perfect. I've heard, I've watched, I've seen many things that he's done, but speaking to the voice of the less privileged in South Africa is important. Somebody has to stand for the less privileged. Somebody has to stand for those white people who are being oppressed. Somebody has to stand for those black people who are being oppressed. Let me tell you one thing. Julius Malema fights for equal rights. It does not mean that him fighting for black people is going to terrorize the white people. No, he's only fighting to have a balance in South Africa. South Africa needs to have a balance on its activities and how it's governing its people, you know. And here is something that we can learn about racism and the video. This is something that I could understand, you know. Racism has been a persistent challenge in South Africa. It's rooted in the country's historical legacy of apartheid. Despite progress since the end of apartheid, the specter of racism continues to cast its shadows not only in South Africa, but across the African continent. Africans, we are having this problem of racism. We are praying that we have more leaders like Julius Malema, who can be able to ensure we have equal rights. Humans have equal rights. So racism in South Africa and Africa, and how the voice of Julius Malema is a collaborative effort to bridge the gap that exists between the black people and the white people. So with the focus on the roles of Julius Malema in bridging the gap between the here is something that we should understand. We should understand the roots of this problem. And I think I said this before, but there's a detail I didn't tell you, and here is the detail. The roots of racism in South Africa can be traced back to the institutionalized segregation and discrimination imposed during the apartheid era. You know, while the formal legal structures of apartheid have been dismantled, its socio-economic consequences persist up to today. You can see from the video, creating disparities that disproportionately affect black communities, mostly black communities. I've seen videos where white people are also being oppressed, and I did like it. I've seen very many videos of black people being oppressed. I really didn't like it, you know. So these disparities manifest in various aspects of life, including education, employment, and access to the resources. It shouldn't be if a black person is demonstrating, then he is causing a human casualty. But when a white person is demonstrating, they don't cause a human casualty. But it's not wrong, it's not justice. We are all fighting for justice and equal rights, you know. The current challenges in South Africa, despite the dismantling of the apartheid, racism remains a pervasive issue in South Africa. Structural inequalities persist, perpetuating socio-economic disparities between different racial groups. Prejudices and stereotypes also continue to a divisive atmosphere, hindering social cohesion. Addressing these challenges requires a multifaceted approach that involves both policy changes and cultural shifts. What is Julius Malema's role, and why do we need more leaders like Julius Malema to confront the issues of racism in South Africa? Here's what we need to know. Julius Malema, a prominent South African leader, emerged as a key figure in the fight against racism. That one we know. Through his political endeavors, Julius Malema has consistently advocated for policies that aim to address historical injustices and bridge the gap between African and white communities. His efforts include promoting land reforms to address historical dispossession and advocating for economic policies that uplift marginalized communities. So in the wider scale, why is it that the problem in South Africa is an African problem? You know, why is it that an African being oppressed in South Africa can be a problem to me, an individual who is living in Kenya, very far away from South Africa, or you who is living in the African diaspora, very far away from South Africa? Here is the global perspective we need to understand. Malema's initiative extends beyond South Africa, as he engages with international communities to foster understanding and collaboration. Recognizing that racism is not limited to a single country, Malema strives to build alliances that transcend borders. By addressing racism on a global scale, he contributes to a broader movement seeking to eradicate discrimination and promote equality worldwide. It's all just about equality. This man is fighting for equality. To conclude, this is what I have to say, you know. Combating racism in South Africa and Africa as a whole requires collective efforts. Leaders like Julius Malema play a crucial role in advocating for policy changes and fostering cultural shifts to build a more inclusive society. By addressing historical injustices, promoting economic equality, and engaging international collaboration, the path towards unity becomes clearer. It is through such comprehensive approaches that the deeply ingrained problems of racism in South Africa can be dismantled, paving the way for a more equitable and harmonious future for South Africans in South Africa, Africans in the continent, and Africans in the diaspora, including the African Americans, including the Africans in the Caribbean, the Africans in Asia, the Africans in Europe, and the Africans in Australia, and the Africans who are very, very many in the South America. That's all I can say for today, and I hope you find value in this channel and you are able to understand Julius Malema is trying to fight for equality, and we as humans, we should try and strive for equality. We should not oppress others so that we can feel superior over them. Equality is what should lead first, and that is my message in this video. Lead by equality, lead by example. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe to the channel, and also do join my Patreon. Donate anything you find willful. I will appreciate. Thank you, and see you in the next video.